co-founder of Podio. I've been working on building the future of work platform Podio for more than 4 years here in Copenhagen. I am located in Copenhagen, and Podio was founded just a couple of blocks from here, and grew rapidly the past couple of years, and is now having a team of 15 different nationalities here in Copenhagen and in San Francisco, and we were recently acquired by Citrix. And as part of this whole journey, we've been very interested in looking at what the future holds for the workplace and for the work environment. And to do that, we set out on a world tour, hosting events all over the world on the theme of the future of work. And today I think I will share with you some of the findings we had, from all these panel sessions and all these discussions, with very bright people, because we do not claim to know everything around, what's changing and how would you best accommodate the future workplace and work environment.
Okay, so how many meetups did you? So there were different meetups in Europe and the US, and you meet what kind of people?
Yeah, so we were hosting events, all over Europe and even in India, and we were, had special panel events in the US and in New York and Boston and LA, San Francisco, and so on. And we had, everything from digital anthropologists to, people inside future studies to more tech-oriented design for social interaction kind of people. But we also had very interesting panel participants that were talking about the workplace as a physical environment, not just talking about, the software or the services and the tools. So, Jennifer McNulty made a big impact on me, and so did David Weinberger in Boston, talking about distributed leadership in organizations and so on.
Mm-hmm. So what were the results that you put together, or that you collected from all those talks with those bright people?
So I was actually planning on sharing a couple of slides. I don't know if it works well in Google Talks, but I could. Show some of the things that we stumbled on. Can I just...
I think you just have to do the screen share and then...
Yeah, let's see if I can find this. Just a second. I think this one would be the one.
Yeah. Well, I can see it nicely, so...
Yeah. So what we found, and what we looked at was how the workplace was changing and how what the future of work were looking like. And I think it's fair to kind of digest from all these talks and all this research that we have moved out of very hierarchical workplaces in a physical sense and moved for some people into cubicles or open landscapes, and even also out of cubicles to work on the distance or in distributed teams, or at least, across boundaries physically. And also that we moved out of, the physical email or the mail into sort of stream-oriented interaction, which is still kind of happening, with tools like Podio itself, with kind of a stream layout on how you collaborate, but also, Yammer and Chatter and so on. And we also looked at how you moved all your records from, binders and into kind of cloud storage. What does that mean? We looked at how, these kind of projects that we used to store all our, context and all our deliverables locally, and what does it mean when it's sort of distributed in systems, project management systems. But I think what was most important was to see how consumers were kind of the expectations that they had, or users that was set by completely different players than the usual IT software players out there, which is actually set by Gmail or Twitter or Facebook or Skype or apps out there. We also saw these studies around the consumerization of IT, how people or employees start picking their own tools and bringing their own devices to work. And then we ask this question, why is it that people start building their own tools, bringing their own tools, working the way they want to? And these were some of the questions we had there, was like, you're battling with IT to get the right tools, or you're sneaking around IT, or you're frustrated with the delivery time, or you are your own IT department. That was sort of some of the things. So the status was that you don't have to be at work to do work, and you can work from any device, and employees want to pick those tools to work with, but they also expect their tools to kind of match, the expectations they have in their private life. And I think, I'll just jump over some of these things to kind of look at what we came up with, or we talked about the whip detection model. When you're looking at tools to manage work, is that you would look at, how well they are, how top down these tools are designed, because tools are not value neutral. So if they're really designed for someone at the top to control what you're doing, it might not be too efficient when it comes to making decisions in a distributed manner. Also, the whole idea about how groups are formed. We see that on the social web, how efficient it is when people can come together almost swarm-like and create like really impressive outcomes in a short time if the group can form itself. And that's a big constraint right now in the way that businesses organize themselves, is that it's very industrial still. It's departments and so on, and it's hard for groups to kind of form themselves. And then how the individual is perceived. We had a lot of talk around individuals like employees or users being perceived as numbers, or even their identity being owned by a system and not by themselves, and how demotivating that is. I think most people that work in big companies have some sort of security token that they use to get in the door, and on that kind of token plastic thing, there's a photo of themselves that they didn't pick. And down to this level of engagement, you have to think about people owning their own identity. And obviously the way we solve that in Podio is on sort of a very social network approach, where you create your own profile and you own your profile, and no one's going to change your profile picture. But these kind of things are not trivial. It sounds trivial when we talk about it, but have a look at like real old school systems, how they are enforcing identity from the top down. We also looked at what kind of behavior is rewarded in the future workplace. Is it the moderator kitten as the one here, or is it sort of more of a betting on social to moderate? So is someone trying to control your work stream and say what you can say and what you can what you can't say and what you can say, or are we betting on the social mechanisms to kind of control that rather than a single person? And then obviously who are building your tools, and that this goes for both, can you actually build your own tools for the future workplace, both your physical tools, can you assemble your own office, and can you build your software tools yourself? Lego is a good example of this. This is how we think when we are developing Podio, but it's also how other people are thinking when they're developing new workspaces, that they have to be modular, they have to be programmable, as Jennifer McNulty was talking about. So basically, if we're going to go into a discussion, I would say that this is the takeaway. The future of work is empowerment, it's transparency, and it's social and mobile. And for those of you who are interested, we actually did make a movie and put it on, on YouTube. It's called the Podio Future of Work movie, and it has interviews with all the panelists from around our tour. I had some provocative questions here to kind of wrap this part up. All these shifts that I talked about, if the workspace is no longer a place you go, but it's a thing you do, should that physical space be an extension of the digital space and not the other way around? Because usually we mold our digital spaces to mirror a physical reality. So we have rooms and we have departments, and we are trying to kind of you know, represent the offline work environment one-to-one in a digital space. Maybe it should be the other way around. I spend more time on my digital tools, so maybe my physical space should mirror that instead. And the other question is, you know, if motivation is more tied to the recognition that you get from your coworkers in a social work setting, more so than compensation, who is really leading who? You know, it's the ones that are recognizing your work that is leading, or is it the one who is paying you to work that is leading? And the third one, which is I think is really an issue here, is that if you bring work home, and most people do, should you be able to bring home to work? Like if you're expected to work during weekends and always on, should you be able to kind of bring your family to work, or should you be able to bring your Facebook to work at least? That's another question. And the whole notion of distributed leadership, which is the notion that the one that has the most followers in a social enterprise is the one that is the leader. How do we ensure like a continuity and a strategic focus for the business as a whole if it's new voices in the business that starts leading? So these were kind of my takeaways, and the questions that I could kind of throw out there. And I'll end the screen now.
So from our discussion that our enterprise CEO events in Germany as well as in Europe, as with the E2O summit in Paris, the future of the empowerment of the people is nothing really new. So what is your evaluation of the state of the art at the moment of the movement of the transformation towards a new kind of work environment? Because we got social tools, so there are social tools out there already being used also in the companies. There is on the other side, well, also in this group, also Podio solutions, naturally. So we are not. Well, I would say we cannot compare the traditional world is not anymore non-social. There is already social. So what do we have to change to go even further?
So you can come to this from different angles. If you come to this from a design perspective and a tools perspective, which is kind of my background, I would say that I completely agree that almost all work settings are social. It's kind of odd to think of, even an astronaut has a social setting, even though he's alone in some rocket somewhere, he's still communicating with everyone about what's going on. So work is inherently social. But I think that a lot of the tools that were built to facilitate work, was based on an industrial paradigm where people were reduced to just ticking off tasks and not, enable the social interaction. So I would say that it's
but here you're talking of the classical content management solution, of the enterprise content management, management systems. Or are you already talking about like a internally used jammer? Is this still for you on a traditional way, and we have to go even further? Or is
I think we have to go. I sincerely think we have to go further. I think it's all evolution, and it's sort of, some of it is close to being revolution, at least in our private lives, how social networks have changed, how we interact. But I think you have to go further than this, because one thing is kind of handling talking about work, chat. I mean, Yammer has these kind of chat live stream functions that Podio has out of the box as well. But I think we have to go to kind of look at why people feel empowered when they can handle their processes, where you're actually talking about building the tools, bringing back together the pieces that makes up your ideal project management system, and not just being empowered to talk about things. So that's from the system angle. I think, from a design perspective, but I also think that we overestimate the kind of the influx of social tools. If you look at kind of the world as a whole, it's still run by email and spreadsheets. That's the most kind of common tool to kind of get things done, to distribute tasks or deliverables or handling data in certain ways. It's people always kind of fire up an Excel sheet to get that stuff done because the tools they have right now are too complex to handle. So I think we kind of got we've taken the first step, but I don't think we saw the real impact of this yet.
Yeah.
And another thing is that it's also about how you can get, these things to work on a cross-boundary, across companies. It's not just having a silo of, chat or conversations inside a company. It's also about getting, companies to talk together. Most transactions or most value is created between companies, not necessarily inside a team. Or teams can exist across companies, and that's a different challenge than,
So wrapping this up, that you would say we have to, or though we are already on the journey to some kind of new work organization, we have to go further with the integration of the process within the social interaction. Because at the moment, all the tools are limited only to social ad hoc collaborations, social communications within the company, but we're not supporting the business processes.
Yeah, I think because that's, at the end of the day, that's really where the work is being delivered. It's in either workflows or processes. That's where the real work takes place. That's where you are designing things or producing things or writing things or making things, services and products. And that's in those workflows and in those processes, that's where we need to build in the bottom-up approach. We need to build in the social aspects into those tools. And we have our own take on that in Podio, on how to do that, where people can build their own apps. I really think that that's kind of going to be the next step. And we see it out there. We see people coming, our way, trying to kind of have, people not just getting a project tool or a stream, but actually getting deeper into what the real work is. For a salesperson, the real work is keeping track of his leads and making, progress towards a sale. What does that entail of systems, of records, and documentation, and all these kind of things. And I think we need to move into that area.
But if we stay with Podio, so because actually it's clear that the future of work is somehow the empowerment and the flexibility to work everywhere, wherever I want. Mm-hmm. So now we're at the point that technology is always a kind of enabler. And you're saying that the technology we got within the social sphere is not really helping us enabling the future of work yet.
No. So
because we are not efficiently or not sufficiently supporting the business processes. Mm-hmm. But let's come back to the Podio. So what do you think, what do we need in terms of the technology design and in regards to the empowerment of the people? How far do we need to get the people get empowered to design their processes? So in Podio, if you're an administrator, you can define a new workspace and define some new apps easily. But do you think that every collaborator or every co-worker should be able to set up his own workspace and set up his own app, and then we get a jungle of apps and workspaces on our corporate social intranet, and nobody has any more an overview of what we're doing. So that's my fear of this.
Yeah, and it's something that we are taking very serious, and we're working with this. So just a small note on this, that for 3 years, end users have been building apps in Podio and setting up workspaces. So we do have quite some experience with that, because it's not just administrators, it's actually end users. And more than 40,000 apps have been created by end users in Podio. And 1 million of these apps have been downloaded from the shared app store. So we do have some knowledge on what's going on. And I mean, it's sort of, if a group of people want to come together to do something, it's always a question of whether control of whether these people should be able to come together and do something is more efficient than, controlling that experience and therefore delaying that, delaying that project to take off. Whether you want to kind of build in these stumbling blocks for things to happen, or whether you want to bet on people knowing, I've got this team, I've got this project, I can set this tool up and then get my work done with my team and then actually achieve more in a short period of time. It's that, cost benefit you have to make up in your mind. And let me just add one more thing to this. This is already happening, right? If you don't provide these tools from a business point of view, like with Podio, then people are picking, you will be surprised how many corporate decisions are made in Facebook groups. People will never say it on record, but everywhere I go, I see people setting up groups on Facebook to do business if those kind of tools are not provided.
But this is still again about communication and ad hoc collaboration. So
not necessarily. Let me give you an example. Olika, which is a Podio user in Australia, they started using Podio for ad hoc project kind of things, and then found out that they could migrate they could build their apps to run their sales. So the sales team in Olika actually built the apps to suit their sales funnel and migrated themselves, their data from Salesforce into Podio. See, that was a very efficient process because it didn't take IT, but obviously it takes decision making in a team to decide on, okay, we're going to use this tool, or we're going to use that tool. The world hasn't changed in that regard. We have to kind of get, and you also have to get, the support of the group of people to actually start working in a different way. So in that regard, it's the same situation, but you can actually have the work done by the people who do the job, and we have, so many examples of this happening every day, where people are kind of setting up these things, not as a protest movement, but as a means to reach their business goals, not just, collaborating on a project, but, running a recruitment process or running a sales team.
So, but how do you answer also the question of, now we're living in a social world, we have quite a big stack of social tools already within the company, and then there's Podio. I think at the end we need some kind of integrated world to really work, but because at the moment it's somehow exploration time, and we're trying to use a wiki for some documentation, then we try to use, we're getting some more people on here somehow. Oh, Cécile Dijoux is joining us. Great to have you with us, Cécile. I can't hear you yet, but hope to hear you soon. So anyhow, the question for me is, what's the future technology vision, also for you as Podio? Do you want to be the integration infrastructure for all the social tools at the end?
So I think that social should be built into any tool. I think social should be part of any business process management tool, or any tool that has people working with it. So it's not about integrating social tools. I think it's about getting all your business process tools or all your other tools to become more social. And then the next question is the integrated experience, and I think that's really key here. And Podio is designed for small and medium-sized businesses, and the medium-sized businesses that I talk to are really happy about, consolidating, most of their collaboration needs and their processes inside Podio across various areas, not just project management, but HR, even financials or mergers and so on one platform. So yeah, I absolutely see the value of that. I also see a challenge here. So that's why we have a totally open API that anyone can kind of build their own customized connections to either legacy systems or other systems out there, and we do have major integrations with all major file sharing services out there work out of the box inside Podio, Google Docs and Box and ShareFile and so forth. So yeah, I believe that has to happen, but I also think it has to do with our identities as people. Are we connected to the right people? There is a social network component in this that really works well on the social web, because any app will recommend you to kind of connect to this person because you know this person from Facebook, and if you sign up for whatever Instagram or something, it'll kind of say this might also be interesting for you. All these dynamics also needs to work within in your workplace. It's silly that you have to kind of try to look up a phone number for someone that you're working with all the time. That phone number should come to you, right? Mm-hmm. You shouldn't go looking for it. It should be connected to you automatically based on your social graph or your interest. And that's also where we see a bit of an overlap between, for instance, your LinkedIn profile and then a profile like the ones that you would have on kind of corporate collaboration platforms. That mm-hmm. there is this kind of big divide between the private life and the professional life, but there's a lot of connections that are shared. Okay. We are friends with a lot of people we work with. It's not day and night.
Yeah. Okay, so let's come back also to your your question as well as my question I set up for this Hangout. So in some ways we already talked about the future the technology solution, so it must be somehow integrated. Mm-hmm. And but still, for me, it's still the question how we get the coordination done within also these very agile and flexible networks, because at the end of the day, you need for some kind of project management, you need some kind of coordination at some level. Yes, you need more flexibility than we have today, but still you need some flexibility. And what is your vision on this?
I think that anything that cannot be fixed by algorithms or predictable models in your system should be fixed by social interaction. There's really no other way. So if the brightest brains in the whole world cannot figure out how to solve this, from a system design point of view, then we'll have to bet on a conversation between you and some other people on deciding on something. But here's an example. These recommendation things you see on the web, especially Facebook are good at this. They're pretty precise. They actually know things about the people you talk to and about yourself, so that they can provide you with some options that you can pick from and say, okay, there's this project taking place here, there's this project taking place here, maybe these two projects are related to one another, or this deadline and this deadline. And by that, a system like Podio could make predictions in the future and kind of suggest things to you so that you don't have to go look yourself. But once the system fails, and that's why social is also important, not just from an employee retention point of view and happiness point of view, but once the system fails, you need to have something else in place for those situations where you have to figure it out. And social communication is just the most efficient way to make a decision on what to do now. Okay.
But for this scenario that you're sketching there, is that for me, as a takeaway, that always leads to that we need one integration platform at the end. So for a small kind of, this might be Podio, also for your customers, it might be another platform for other customers, but you need for this internal social world where you are flexible to set up your own groups and your own little task management systems and collaboration environments. You need one integrative infrastructure which ties all the information together that this infrastructure can really do the predictive tasks, because somebody needs to collect the information and do the relations.
Yeah, definitely. You know, there is services out there that would kind of help you index your inbox, for instance. So, making some logic out of your inbox and label things automatically. Like I particularly like the way that Google did the priority inbox. It's a huge efficiency gain for the people getting a lot of email and actually finding out.
But these single services, they don't know about the workspaces, maybe in Podio.
No, exactly, and we are, working in some of these areas as well, and that's why I was talking about the API. But this becomes technical. I don't know about the audience we have today, but APIs are really important in this regard, because that's the only way that these systems can actually share across, and make sure that the end user gets the information he or she needs, or the recommendations or the predictions he or she needs, if you're working across multiple platforms. So that has to work via APIs. If I think Podio is a very good take, and it's not just because I helped start it, but it's a very good take on actually getting more processes consolidated in one place. Obviously, we don't do banking or invoicing, so there will still be tools out there doing that, and then we can integrate with some of those tools to be able to handle more processes and bring more relevancy also, because it's also about relevancy. I think one of the very good things about a new cloud-based design for collaboration as opposed to email is that Podio, we can actually help you find out what's important for you, or like Facebook can kind of find out, okay, we suggest this is more important than this because of your interactions with these people and so on, and that is only a platform that can bring that value to the table. It's not a standalone email client that will bring that value.
Excuse me when I try to push you also in one corner, because I try to challenge you a little bit, because we're also using Podio, and for me, I see always somehow, setting up different workspaces for me is setting up different silos. Because there's a workspace for this project, a workspace for that project, and so on. But the interconnections between those workspaces, while working within the workspace, and I see on within the status updates, I see what is happening in the different workspaces. But that's only me as a human to interconnect between the workspaces. So the workspaces themselves are somehow silos within the system. So this is not really going any further than any other, than using maybe on the one hand a wiki tool for that project, another wiki tool for that project, and so on.
I think I'm not aware of how exactly you use Podio, but I'd like to think
we're using it wrong. So, but
no, I'm not. I hope there is no such way. But I think I'd like to look at workspaces as a way to focus. So rather than seeing it as a silo, because you can work across workspaces, but it's a way of you to actually gain focus of something. So you can go to, every workspace has its own stream, so you can actually focus. And that has to do with the relevancy I was talking about before, that you can zoom in on a particular area. So if you're a sales agent, your sales workspace with your leads and your co-sales workers is perhaps the place that you hang out the most on Podio, but we will aggregate those things for you in a stream that works across spaces, and your apps can connect across spaces if that's what you want. But you know, it's obviously it's very much a design challenge. What we are talking about now is finding the best way to kind of lay out what's going on, and while at the same time being extremely flexible and powerful, you know, underneath this, you know, doing things that no one else did out there, when it comes to kind of you also managing the structures of your data, not just your comments and your edits, but actually managing how your whole lead system is set up. And at the same time, keeping a very simple and easy to understand surface of this, or a presentation layer. That's our challenge, and we are working on that.
Okay, great. So we have about 45 minutes now been talking about this. I think it was quite interesting. Thank you, Jon, for joining me in this talk.